Well guys, today we're finally given an upgrade to perhaps the least predatory animal in the Clanny Clitters room. And that is Slim Snaily, the giant African land snail. So Slim Snaily was one of the first animals in the classroom for the school I work at. So they came in just after Bagel and the kids absolutely loved them. But since I've brought them home, they've been living in this temporary little box of mud since then. So I think it's about time we upgrade them to an enclosure that is suited to such a magnificent little animal. And that is going to start with this box. Now, of course, Slim isn't just your usual snail. They are a giant African land snail, and they're actually an endemic species. So this is Lissacutina filica, and they are one of the Madagascar giant land snails. So you only find them on the island of Madagascar, which is awesome when you're in school because it lets you teach about these endemic species. They don't get quite as big as some of the ovums and some of the true XXL land snails, but they still do get to quite an impressive size. And seeing as Slim is a giant African land snail, then I think they do deserve a giant enclosure. Now they say the enclosure of your snail should be at least 3 times the length of its shell. That's at least, that's probably on the smaller end. So we're going to make sure that Slim has a nice big enclosure to move around, because they are quite inquisitive animals and they do like to roam around. And as with any animal, the first piece of the puzzle is always going to be a nice substrate. And this is particularly important for these detritivorous or scavenging animals like Slim, because they will eat the soil. So the substrate can be quite a large part of their diet. So it needs to be a really quality mixture, something that's got a lot of nutritional value in there. And the way I do that is starting with a base of topsoil, just some nice organic topsoil. You need to make sure it's organic and that it doesn't contain any pesticides, because that definitely won't be good for your snail. And alongside the topsoil, I am going to also be adding in some of this. So this is a mixture called flake soil, which is just fermented wood shavings and wood chips. So wood that's started to be broken down and decomposed by funguses. Normally yeast people use when they're making it themselves. And we might make a video in the future showing you how to make this stuff, because it isn't hard, but it is quite a lengthy process. So we're going to put a good amount of this flake soil in here as well. And now we will continue topping it up with our topsoil mix. Now these snails do also like to root around and bury themselves, so don't be shy with that soil, that substrate. So I tend to just make a big batchy mix at a time and then add to it as I'm going. And this last one that I've made felt like it was quite cocoa coir heavy. And we don't want that because it's not got great nutritional value for the animals. And for the animals that do eat the substrate, it can lead to impaction. And I've just discovered there was a hole in the bottom of my tub. But that is a problem for about half an hour's time. Now, the substrate isn't quite finished off yet. We've got that stuff in there. What I am going to do is throw in a good amount of leaf litter. And then with my soil mixer, I'm going to turn that all through the soil. And before we go any further, we're going to start adding some of that cleanup crew. So, these are some pots that had little spiderlings in them that I've just cleared out. But they are full of springtails, so we're just going to dump all that into here, and all the springtails with it. You can already see them all moving around, and that should be enough to establish a new colony. Slim's trying to escape, but he's not getting very far. So we've got some of this set up now. We're going to add a few other things. I want to make sure that Slim has a nice water dish, so that's going to go over in this corner. I also want to make sure he's got a little height, so that'll go over here. I'm going to partially bury that to make sure it's nice and secure, because he will move it around. It's anything like any other stuff I tried to give him. And he will excavate that out as he goes. There you go, that seems nice and secure. And it is near impossible to find some greenery that these guys won't eat. But I do have a spare stranded pothos, so I'm going to just pop that in at the back here and see how it goes. And I'm going to put in some chunks of lawn moss. So pop that beside the pothos. And then I would also like to give him a big chunk of rotten wood. So that'll help with some of the other little creatures that are going to be in here as well. What do we think? I reckon it's looking pretty good so far. Now, obviously, I am going to add more leaf litter on top. So these guys do like it quite damp because they don't like to dry out. They like their skin to be able to take up water. If you ever don't have that water content in there, they'll just retreat into their shells and they seal it over with like a solidified mucus. So the last thing I'm going to do, now I've got all that moss in there, I've got that sphagnum, I've got that good leaf litter, I am going to water the whole enclosure. And you want to be nice and generous with this. It's not the last thing actually, because we have still got to put in some of Slim's neighbours. So in here I have some orange Persillio laevis isopods. So these are going to go in with Slim to be part of that cleanup crew. And with all of that sorted, we can finally add our main character, which is Slim Snaily. One thing that always gets me with these guys when you hold them is how strong they are. You can feel their feet or their foot grabbing onto you. And I also just felt his teeth there. He's having a little rasp at my finger. So let's see if he wants to go in, then we'll prepare his dinner. I'm going to have to kind of peel him off and put him in because he's just sitting on my hand and eating the leaves in there. So in you go, mister, time to explore. And I think we'll give him another quick spray down now that he's in. Clean off his shell for a nice fresh start. He likes his sprays. Right guys, now that Slim's in there, it's time to actually work on his dinner. So to start with, I am actually going to be using a little bit of gecko mix from fruit and bug. And just popping some of that in here. Now Slim loves this stuff, and I'm quite happy with that because if he only eats this, then I know he's got everything that he needs. I like to make it into quite a thick paste for him. Next, he's going to get a few tomatoes. No, I think that'll be enough actually. And then a little slice of apple. Now one of the things I like to do just to make sure he's getting everything he needs every now and then is just take some calcium dust, some of my other animals, and I pop it on to that fruit. And that'll mean when he's eating it, he has to eat all that calcium dust as well. And that'll give him everything he needs to grow. I just find it's a little bit easier than using cuttlefish at times because I can see how much he's eating and it doesn't just go off. And then lastly, just sprinkle over some fish flakes, which he loves. And this is a little snail banquet. So let's pop it in the enclosure. Well guys, I'd say that was a pretty successful rehouse. Slim Snaily seems to be loving his new setup. You guys will have to let me know what you think here. Is there something I could have changed, or is there things I should be adding in there? But I've still got quite a bit of a night ahead of me. I've got 2 videos to edit at this point, and hopefully I will see you guys again in a week or so. Cheerio and Rasta.